Hey everyone. Hey, thanks for watching. Today we're going to talk about e-bike batteries and safety. Every once in a while you hear about a fire started by an e-bike, and it's exceedingly rare. Hardly ever happens when you count the number of e-bikes that are out there and the very, very limited number of fires that have actually happened. So start out by saying it's very uncommon, but there are things that you can do to eliminate that threat. If you follow the guidelines that I'm going to show you today, we can take that threat of any sort of e-bike battery failure, fire, down to almost zero. So let's get into it. So your battery on an e-bike is the most expensive part of the bike. These can range anywhere in price from about $400 to about $800, depending on what they are. This is a very large pack. It's a 52 volt, 20 amp hour. This is for a Cyrusher Trax. It's the same battery as the Cyrusher Ranger uses. Good quality. These use LG cells in them. You want either LG or Panasonic. If you see other brands listed, or most commonly, you will not see any brand listed for the kind of cells that are used in these packs. Be very wary of that. Do your best to stay away from the cheap unbranded batteries. Some of the ones that you buy on eBay or Amazon, they are the number one reason for electric vehicle fires. So many people will go online and order a larger charger than what their bike came with. This is a 3 amp. They say, well, I want to be able to charge my battery in 4 hours. And so they pick out a 5 amp charger online, buy it, and start using that with their stock battery. That can be really dangerous in a lot of ways. First of all, one of the more practical ways is it will most likely void your warranty on the battery. So you shouldn't do that. Secondly, it may overcharge the battery. These batteries have something called the BMS built into them, which is the battery management system that monitors the battery and its cells within the battery. So it stops overcharging, regulates the charging and operating temperatures, and balances all the cells as they charge, which is really important that it have a system within that keeps all the battery cells essentially charged to the same voltage, which in these type of batteries is normally 4.2 volts. But an aftermarket charger may disable that BMS system. It may short it out. You don't know how it's going to react with it. So it's always best to use the stock charger. And if you've lost your charger, go to the manufacturer and get one of the stock ones ordered, because the aftermarket ones can be very dangerous, and like I said before, will probably void your warranty. There are a few things that you want to keep an eye on with your battery. One is make sure that there isn't any swelling on the battery. That can indicate that there are problems with the cells inside, and that you may have a dangerous situation. Swelling on some of the aluminum cased batteries is really hard to see, but what you'll usually see if that happens is one of these end caps starting to separate from the body of the battery. So just a little harder to see, but still obvious. With both of those conditions, you're going to find that your battery is hard to install in the bike, and or maybe impossible to install. A lot of e-bikes will have a battery that mounts in a location like this on your down tube. This particular bike has little battery terminals towards the top here, but I've seen them at the bottom as well. If you're going to have your battery out of your bike and the bike is sitting out in rain or snow this winter, make sure that all of this stuff is clean and dry before you snap your battery back in. Like if you're using it for a commuter or something, before you head home, your connections have to be dry. If there's snow packed in here, because it's been blowing and outside. That's going to be a problem. Not only will your battery maybe not go in, but it is definitely a possible short there. So be real careful with that. This type of battery mount where the battery is on the front of the bike here, and if this were to sit out in the snow, this would definitely fill up with snow here. So you need to clear that out really well. I carry a microfiber cloth with me so that I can just kind of push everything out of there. Make sure that there's no snow bridging any of these terminals. Everything's clean and dry, and then put your battery in. Ideally, with both of these scenarios, you're going to be storing your bike with the battery out of it in a place that's protected from the weather. But if you do end up having to leave it outside, definitely something to check. I'd also like to mention that traditional dry chemical fire extinguishers have little to no effect on a lithium ion battery fire. A traditional dry chemical extinguisher will stop the fire from spreading, but you generally won't be able to put out your battery fire with that. Water is ineffective as well and actually can make things more dangerous. So really the only way for us to fight a battery fire like this is just to stop it from spreading. And you can do that with water or an extinguisher, but don't expect to put the battery out with one of these. So since we're talking about extinguishers and just general safety with the battery here, I'm going to also point out that you should have your keys for your e-bike somewhere where you can always find them quickly. If you started to see a problem with the bike in that something suddenly was smelling hot, your battery felt hot to the touch, something like that, you could grab your keys, get that battery out of the bike and out of the house or wherever you are, and make things safe. So I keep all my keys organized in a container like this that's bolted to the wall, so I always know where they are. If I were to have a problem, it would just take me a few seconds to grab the key, unlock it, and get that battery out of the bike. So all batteries have a operating temperature range that they like. Most of these kind of batteries like to operate in the 35 degree to 95 degree range. You never want to let your battery freeze. So if you're riding to work in the cold and you're gonna leave your bike outside and go into work, and it's gonna be a cold day, you need to pull your battery and bring it in with you. Same thing goes for coming home and leaving your bike in a cold garage or locked up outside somewhere. Your battery really shouldn't be exposed to freezing temperatures ever. That can be a little tough here in Colorado where it gets really cold in the winters, and I like to do some riding in the snow and all that. So what I have come up with to make it a little safer for the battery, I'll show you that. But what I've installed is like a neoprene cover that goes the batteries here on the front, and it covers all of that. It's got Velcro here on the back, so you can kind of take it off and clean underneath it when you need to and all of that. But what this neoprene does is it stops all the water splash from the front here if I'm riding through puddles and snow and all of that stuff. Keeps the battery dry underneath, and it gives it a nice thermal layer here. So I don't worry at all about the wind chill that I would if it were just exposed plastic here on the front. You know, if I'm traveling at 30 miles an hour in 20 degree temperature, that's a significant wind chill on the front. So this should help that a lot. A couple of times last year, I even put those hot hand warmers underneath this a couple of times on the really cold days, like 3 of those in there, just to add a little bit of heat inside this compartment here. And that seemed to work pretty well. So there's not much more I can do other than like an actual electric blanket on the front of this for extreme cold weather. But this definitely helps to waterproof and protect against the wind chill. So just like with the cold temps, these are susceptible to extremely hot temperatures as well. If you live in Arizona and you're at 115 degrees out biking and you pull up and you're going to leave your bike out in the sun or something, you definitely want to pull your battery, bring it with you. Again, just trying to keep it in that 35 to 95 degree temperature range. If you find that you've charged your battery to 100% and then you're not going to have a chance to get out and ride for a couple of days, it's still very advisable to go ahead and put your battery in and do at least a couple of laps around the block just to take a little bit off the top of the battery. You don't want a 100% full battery sitting there for days or even worse, weeks at a time. So if you can run it down to even 98%, that will help a lot just to extend the life of your battery. I know you've noticed these big ammo boxes that I've got sitting here. These are actually what I use for my fire prevention. These are 40 millimeter ammo boxes, and they measure about 17.5 inches long, about 6 inches wide, and about 10 inches tall here. So they're perfect dimensions for most of these bigger batteries, and lots of room for the smaller batteries. So they work really well. They have these, they're all steel, and they have these steel lids that clamp on. I've drilled a hole in each for a vent so that if there's any sort of off-gassing. So while the chance of any of the quality batteries for the e-bikes ever igniting is extremely low, I still have fire protection for these batteries. And what I've done is put a piece of foam and one of these small welding blankets. These are rated to about 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. They're some sort of carbon impregnated cloth. Super high temp rating on these, and just so that I don't bang anything around or have any sort of damage if I were to drop this into the box. I've got this piece of foam inside, so I put one of these at the end. What this does is sort of keep my terminals protected down here, and I drop in my big battery there. And then these lids, everything on these is steel, and nice quality steel. So just drop that on, lock those in place, and you've got your carry handles on either end of there. So a nice way to keep the batteries safe. Nothing can hit them. I can't drop anything on them and damage them, and they can't cause any problems from igniting or anything like that. I've got one of these boxes for each of my e-bikes, and I keep them labeled on top here so that I can keep the correct battery and charger in the same box. As long as you follow the general guidelines of don't let them freeze, don't let them cook in the sun, and don't overcharge them, they'll last a good long time. Most of the time, these charges just slowly diminish over time, and you feel like you don't quite have the range with your e-bike that you used to have. That's when it may be time to get a new battery. Fires are a minuscule threat, but by having a box like this, you can eliminate that threat altogether. So just something to do so you can sleep better at night, knowing that there's no chance of your battery starting to fire anywhere. And that's pretty much it for this video. If you have any additions that you'd like me to put into the video, comment below, and I will try to shoot some additional footage to cover what you have. So, hey, thanks. I appreciate it.